Nice to meet you, Brent. Rocking, yeah, really good. Thanks for your patience, mate. Sorry we're a bit late. I know the tide and time wait for no man around here.
How incredible is this mangrove system? We're here where the two Johnston rivers meet, an iconic part of the beautiful Cassowary coast.
And stoked to be here with the legends from Snapping Tours. We're here in search of the king of the creeks, the saltwater crocodile. Here he is.
Maybe this one's grandfather.
We'll see how we go. Over here. Is that one on the bank there?
On the bank, yeah. I reckon this one.
Yeah, we're on. Look at him. Oh, he's a bloody beauty. He's a full banger. What? Woohoo! How's it, bro? How good is that? Yeah. Beauty. Captain. Cheers, man. Beauty. Cheers, fellas. Crack our afternoon. Thanks for having us. Great way to spend the afternoon. Beautiful.
Fellow councillors, staff and residents viewing via live stream, good morning all and welcome. I acknowledge the traditional owners and caretakers of the land on which this meeting is being held and pay my respect to the elders past, present and emerging. Could I ask everybody to be upstanding for 1 minute's silence for Pastor Lance Dodds, former pastor of the Harvest Church. Lance has delivered the opening prayer frequently to our council meetings. Thank you. Do we have any apologies? Take that as a no. We move on to the declarations of conflicts of interest. Councillors and staff, declarations of prescribed conflict of interest or declarable conflict of interest. Please use this opportunity to make public any prescribed conflict of interest or declarable conflict of interest in respect of the items in the agenda. Councillors should use this opportunity to disclose and or comment on other councillors and or staff interests in accordance with the Act and the regulations. Councillors, any conflicts to declare? Councillor Millwood.
Through the Chair, I've got a declarable conflict of interest in item 4.2, and that is to do with my personal leave. And I also have a declarable conflict in 5.2 that the applicant of this is a related party, and I am seeking advice from my fellow councillors on whether they would like me to leave the room or not.
Okay, I might refer to the CEO to get an indication on this one.
Thank you, through Mr. Chairman. As a mother, father, husband, brother, sister, son, daughter? No. Do you have a close personal relationship with this person? I don't think there's any reason why council couldn't
Fellow
decide.
councillors, what's your view? Can Councillor Millwood stay in the room for that vote? Yes. That's unanimous, okay. Any other conflicts of interest to be declared? No? All right, we'll move on to item 1, confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 22nd of April 2021. Would somebody move there a true and accurate record, please? Councillor Chewy, Councillor Barnes, all in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Any business arising from those minutes? So no. We move on to item 3, economic activation and tourism. Item 3.1, page 15, the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries Agri-Tourism Project. And Mr. Sadler will present this report. Welcome, Mr. Sadler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Council.
Morning, Mr. Sadler.
I'm presenting today's report. Richard's on the way to Townsville with the I-van to do the Townsville Outdoor Expo for this weekend.
Okay.
So the report you have in front of you, Council, is some work that we've been doing with the Chair for some time around agri-tourism and highlighting a project that Department of Agriculture and Fisheries are about to embark on as part of, I suppose, diversifying agriculture and the tourism industry, as well as economic recovery for regional areas in relation to COVID. So we've been a key stakeholder with the department in relation to, I suppose, this project, and see it as a great opportunity for our agri businesses within our regions to diversify and obviously work through the COVID recovery piece. So the recommendation to council today is just in relation to participating as part of the project with our business partner, the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries, and particularly hosting some workshops within our region.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Sadler. Councillor Farinelli, as Chair, would you like to say a few comments about the project, please?
So through the Chair, this is a really exciting opportunity for the region, and everyone knows it's been something that I've been advocating for since election. Agriculture is the main industry within this region, but I also acknowledge the fact that we've also got quite an ageing demographic in that agricultural industries, and I see this as a great opportunity to look at future-proofing farming for this region. With ag tourism sort of being another area that maybe the younger generation may see as they may see opportunities for them if they have entrepreneurial skills or desires to look at other areas that may be beneficial to them, and encourage them to stay on the farm, because for me, I think that's something that's very important for this region is future-proofing farming, because it is the backbone, I believe, of the Cassowary Coast. So I was very fortunate to have a director that really embraced my vision for agri-tourism for the region, sought to provide some to put together some meetings right at the beginning of my term with some people, and DAF was one of those. They were really enthusiastic about the vision I had with ag tourism for our region, and I really do think that we've contributed quite significantly in that first discussion to the way in which they've actually put together this project. I think we've played a big part, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Sadler, but I do believe, and that's been acknowledged in the fact that we are now one of the first two to be offered this opportunity to run workshops. So the Cassowary one was the first one is, well, first two, we get to share that opportunity with the Sunshine Coast. Sunshine Coast as an already established agritourism area, and the Cassowary Coast as showing great potential for agritourism in our region. So this is going to create some great opportunities, I think, to opening people's eyes in the agricultural industry to opportunities that we have here in the Cassowary Coast. We're so perfectly geographically located between Cairns and Townsville. Our climate is ideal, I believe. We've got access to transport, which is fantastic. So I guess the next step is encouraging farmers, people within the ag industry in the Cassowary Coast, to get on board with this and to see this for the incredible opportunity that it is. These workshops will provide some great information on how they can maybe branch into ag tourism. And, I've done a lot of travelling myself, basically really looking into ag tourism in other regions and how it does benefit those regions. And I see what we have here on the Cassowary Coast being just as great, if not better, opportunities than some of those regions. So I just hope that our ag industry really gets behind this and embraces it and sees it for the absolutely fantastic opportunity that it is. And I thank the director for involving me in this, seeing this vision, and we now get to celebrate the fact that we're most definitely on the radar, and we're most definitely heading in the right direction.
Thank you, Councillor Farinelli. Any further comments? Councillor Millwood?
Yeah, I'd also like to commend everybody involved in being able to get this opportunity for our community members to be involved in this, or just who do they contact, and where would these workshops be held?
Mr Sadler.
So through the chair, thank you, Councillor Millwood, for the question. There is a project officer from DAF in relation to this project, and it will get launched more formally in the coming weeks. And from that, then there'll be times and schedules set up. So particularly recently have talked to one of the cane grower boards around this future project, and as soon as there's more detail from the department, we'll be able to go to all the different industry groups and connect with those and highlight those. We will be using some community venues and things like that, so like the library, for example, and places like that across the region to boost this up.
Any further comments, questions, councillors? If not, would somebody move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Farinelli, seconded by Councillor Baines. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Mr Sadler. We move on to item 4, Governance, Environment and Finance, 4.1, page 18, the quarterly progress report and the operational plan, and Mrs Kerr will present this report. Welcome.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Miss Kerr.
Through the chair, in front of you today is the third quarter review of the 2021 operational plan. You can see that there are 79 KPIs on track, 25 on watch, and 14 with a red status of warning or for action. On the second page of the covering report, I've listed the 14 KPIs that are identified in the body of the report as being on warning. And in the comments contained within that report are explanations as to some of the reasons why those items are flagged as red. If anyone has any questions specifically on any of the
Any questions?
KPIs.
Councillor Chewy.
Thank you, Ms Kerr. Through the chair, I believe Mr Sadler might need to answer my question though, or Mr Crosby, I'm not sure which. I think it's Mr Sadler. Yeah, thank you.
I'll even move it over for you.
Thank you, Mr Sadler. Yes, in relation to 3.31.2 footpath, I see we've had an unsuccessful recruitment process for a senior asset inspector. So my question is, are we still looking, 3 questions, are we still looking to fill that position? Does the delay in filling the role ultimately impact on the plan, and can this plan be achieved without the asset inspector? Thank you.
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor Chewy, for your query. First part to your questions is yes, we are still trying to recruit. So we did have a incumbent in there and moved away due to family health reasons. So we intend to continue to go out to market again to fill that role. That role is critical to this project, and so that's why it has been stalled or on hold, and hence the reason for it's red, because it's gone past the due date. We intend to continue to do that project once we've got the resource to do that. So the intent is to go forth and fill that role. We've been out a couple of times to do that and have not been successful. And I suppose if we don't get that next time, then we would consider reshaping that role potentially to like a cadet or a graduate type engineer. So we'll happy to keep council advised as we go through that process.
Thank you. If you could keep us informed, that would be great. Thank you very much, Mr Sadler.
Councillor Millwood.
Through the chair, while you're there, Adam,
Yep.
I've got another question for you in regards to 2.1.1 revitalisation plan for the Tully Library, which the completion date of December 20 wasn't met. Any indication on where that's at the moment?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, through the chair, Councillor Millwood. We do have some sketches that was done just prior to the senior librarian finishing and retiring. So it has stalled slightly. We need a bit more work in relation to that design and drawings, and then we'll go back to consultation with the community. Happy to grab the manager of that group and sit down and give you an update, Councillor Millwood.
And will the community consultation, where will that be advertised so that the community knows when they can go and have a look at that?
Yep. Through the chair, we'll do it similar to the process that we did with the Mission Beach Library and its modifications. So it'll be exactly the same. We'll work with our media marketing team in relation to how we get that out to the community.
Any further questions for the officers? If not, would somebody move the recommendation, please? Moved by Councillor Chewy, seconded by Councillor Baines. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We move on to item 4.2, and Councillor Millwood will depart the room. Yep. Of her own volition?
No, 4.2. 4.2. Councillor Millwood said that she was leaving of her own volition.
Yeah.
Councillor Millwood said she was leaving of her own volition. Mr. Mayor, it was 5.2 that
She stays in the room.
stays.
Yep.
Yeah.
Over to the CEO.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, excuse me, Councillor Millwood has requested leave of absence, formal leave of absence be granted for the period 28th of June this year through to 6th of July inclusive. The staff will ensure that she's briefed on any items discussed at councillor information sessions which might be held in her absence, and it's my recommendation that Council approve Councillor Millwood's request for leave of absence, again 28th June, 6th of July inclusive.
Thank you, CEO. Somebody move the recommendation, please. Moved by Councillor Chewy, seconded by Councillor Baines. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We move on to 5, planning, and CEO will bring Councillor Millwood back. 5.1, page 91, material change of use for non-resident workforce accommodation, and Mr. Jones will present this report.
Mr. Jones.
Welcome.
Nice, Reverend.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Mr. Jones.
Morning. Through the Chair, Council is in receipt of an application for a material change of use for the establishment of non-resident workforce accommodation in a tourist park within the rural zone on land described as Lot 1, RP 733378, and Lot 2, RP 743119, situated at Bruce Highway, Ellerish. The proposed development involves a material change of use to allow the non-resident workforce accommodation to be undertaken within the existing motel and caravan park, while maintaining the existing use rights associated with the motel and caravan park. The development application also seeks a material change of use over the adjoining lot to allow the accommodation of a maximum of 15 self-contained motorhomes to park on the allotment. This component of the proposal falls within the land use definition of a tourist park within the planning scheme. The requirement for the application has arisen due to the motel accommodation being used predominantly for agricultural workers residing at the premises who are partaking in seasonal work on surrounding rural properties, as well as the remainder of the site for self-contained motorhomes. The application was impact accessible and therefore public notification was required. 0 properly made submissions were received by Council. As the application is generally consistent with the provisions of the planning scheme, it is recommended for approval subject to reasonable and relevant conditions. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the officer? Councillor Barnes.
Oh yes, good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to make the public aware how important this is for the agricultural industry that that we do this process properly. As we're fully aware, through COVID, we haven't got our backpacker population coming through our country, and thank God for these motels, farmers, and the government, all and council and etc., all playing a part to try and remove our crops. That's all I'd like to say.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. Any further comments, questions, councillors? Moved by Councillor Farinelli, seconded by Councillor Millwood. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jones. We now move on to item 5.2, material change of use for medium impact industry and warehouse, and Mr. Jones will present this report.
Thank you. Council is in receipt of an application for material change of use for the establishment of a medium impact industry and warehouse being a shed and offices on land described as Lot 15, SP 210275, situated at 9 Shepherd Close, Mission Beach. The proposed building is to accommodate both an upholstery business and hire business with the additional storage space. There will also be 2 separate offices that will be situated at either end of the building in correlation with the 2 businesses. The site is located within the industry precinct. The surrounding area along Shepherd Close, Dewar Street and LRH Mission Beach Road and Tully Mission Beach Road have a number of existing commercial and industrial businesses operating in close vicinity of the site. The application was impact accessible and therefore public notification was required. 0 properly made submissions were received by Council. The application is generally consistent with the provisions of the planning scheme and therefore is recommended for approval subject to reasonable and relevant conditions. Happy to answer any questions, Council.
Any questions? Councillor Chewy.
Thank you, Mr Jones. Through the chair. Yes, Mr Jones, can we be given guarantee from Council that the conditions regarding landscaping will in fact be monitored, because we know that there have been issues with areas down there before. It's an entrance to Mission Beach. Both roads are very important to the general appearance of the area. So I would just like a guarantee from Council, if I may, that we can be sure that the landscaping commitment that these people have made will be fulfilled. Thank you.
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor Chewy, for the question. Yes, we do have an existing issue in regards to non-compliant landscaping down in that industrial estate at the moment, and council officers are negotiating with the landholder in regards to fixing that issue.
And excuse me, and we'll be controlling this one as well. Yes, thank you.
Correct.
Any further questions or comments, councillors? If not, would somebody move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Pervin, seconded by Councillor Chewy. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Mr Jones.
Thank you.
Move on to item 5.3, page 218, delegation report. Who's Mr Horton's not here? Who's presenting this one? Byron doing, is he?
No, he's just grabbing Dan.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Council was busy working away.
Item 5.3, page 218, delegation report and current applications. And Mr Horton will present this report.
Morning, Council.
Closely shaven, Mr Horton.
New haircut, new look, a bit of a shave, you know. See how I could do it. But morning, everyone. Hope everyone's well. Is this on? Are we on? Yeah, it's good. The stats report is for March, Council. It's a bit late. Why I was a bit late, I was waiting for a bit of extra information through the government space, but we have a delay on stats coming through on different parts of the business. So I sort of was trying to hold off from providing March because I wanted to provide a few more figures, but I think it'll be a couple of months until I get those figures. But for March, which is provided in front of you, is showing that planning applications are up from 58 from last year, the same time last year, so we're up 58. In that period, a number of these applications are dealing with the rise in dwelling numbers, Council, associated dispensations. However, we still have some substantial planning applications coming through. You would have just seen the 2 that you dealt with. There's a number of others that we have been dealing with in that space as well, and there is some to come as well, which we've been notified about. In the building space, we've had 44 dwelling approvals to the end of March, so that's a 3-month period there, up 16 on the past 5 years during that same period, so overall the 3 months, Council. Additionally, we have 144 totals for the end of March, which is that 3 month period, which is up by 33 on the best of those last 5 year period that we show on those graphs, Council. For the totals of the 51 approvals that we've done to date, is a value of 7.48 million, which takes the overall total for the 3 months for dwellings is 18.6 million, Council. Substantial amount, especially around our other components, commercial and so forth. Dwellings are up with that, which you'll see that for the dwellings, so we got 18 approvals there. So 6.44 million, which takes us to 15, Council. So with the dwellings, we have 15 million overall. We got 18.6. So you can notice that little bit of difference. Our commercial and components is not a large build there. It's more around our dwelling component. Yeah. For the financial year, for the building approvals, we're 3 months ahead on last year's totals, Council. So we're at last year's totals for June, end of June, which we've achieved now in March. So hopefully we keep proceeding, which, you know, it's been incredible, you know, for 19 approvals in February and 18 in March for housing is nice to see. For what I could find from the Queensland Government, from Council asking me, for the month of February Council dealt with 0.5 or 1% of the Queensland market on what we're dealing with building approvals. So 0.5 or 1% of that market. Overall, at the end of February, 12-month period, Council is faring a lot better than the dwelling approvals to Hinchinbrook, Burdekin, Charters. The only sort of area that was sort of larger than Council with our sort of range of population and area was probably the Tablelands Council. They were up a fair bit. They've got a considerable amount of land up there around the dam areas and you know, in Tolga and a few other areas up there with a couple of subdivisions that they have there. In Queensland, total number of applications for new build under the grant scheme, Council. I couldn't get a breakdown for our area. I'll seek to try and do that a bit further with Treasury. Was 21,871 people took it up. That was new builds. That wasn't renovations. We haven't had a lot of renovations approvals here, if any, I think, but most of us have been new builds, Council. Additionally, as we understand, the signed contracts that we had in the extension has gone now from 6 months to 18 months because of delays. There's been delays around product, steel, timber to build trusses and stuff like that. A lot of the companies have been seeking and acquiring that source of business to roll that out. Council, any other questions? I'm happy to answer.
Any questions for the officer? Councillor Chewy.
Thanks, Mr. Horton. Just curiosity, could you tell us where most of the new builds might be happening in the area, if it's possible?
Look, through the chair, it's a spread right through the whole region. It's not just one place. Innisfail has a fair bit of it around Eddy Bay's got a lot in that last subdivision that's been there since probably 05. It's sort of got a fair bit down there in the Bulgaroo area. But the rural area, there's a number around the place. Mission Beach has got a few. Yeah, look, Cardwell's got a couple too. So there is a wide spread, Councillor.
Okay, Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Horton, I see in the federal budget that came out the other day, there is discussions around a lot more building support going forward, some pushing into the lower socio-economic areas and supporting single mothers, etc. in those spaces. But I think it's encouraging that the other two levels of government are going to continue this support. And with our wonderful lifestyle here in the Cassowary Coast region, being the heart of the wet tropics and the birthplace of the Great Barrier Reef, I think we may see a continuance in this trend and get some more stuff coming on. It's going to make you busy, I know. But
through the chair, it's always nice to be busy.
Yeah.
Better than being bored. So look, we look forward to handling whatever we can, Councillor, and dealing with that and dealing with the state and fed government and discussions around housing and what's required. And I suppose the discussions we'll have as a council through our planning scheme and how do we densify and what we do in those spaces as well, to try and achieve, you know, better outcomes for our region.
Yeah, and further too, if I may, Mr. Mayor, rather than a question, this is more a comment. I'm getting a lot of comments out of people who are working with your department, and I'd like to pass their congratulations on to you and for you to filter it down through the department, because they're finding your department very cooperative and very helpful in their efforts. So great work to you and your team.
Through the chair, thank you. We'll take that on board and I'll pass it on to the team. It's greatly appreciated.
Yeah, I'd like to concur. We attended a function at Caramine Beach on Sunday morning, and we had breakfast at the new the Caramine Beach Cafe. Now, those people have just left a hotel business in West Australia, come here to start a new life, and they told me that this is the best council planning department they've ever worked with, and that's the Chitter Chatter Cafe. Yeah. So
through the chair, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
I told them I'd pass that comment on.
Yep, thank you. It's greatly appreciated.
So remember, Chitter Chatter, if you want a coffee. Okay, any further comments, anybody? Would somebody move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Baines, seconded by Councillor Pervin. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thanks, Council.
Thanks, Mr. Horton. We move on to item 6, major projects. Item 6.1, page 242, Port Hinchinbrook Sewerage Proposal. And Mr. Bradford will present this report. Welcome, Mr. Bradford.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, councillors. I'm here this morning to bring to you a update on the Port Hinchinbrook sewerage proposal. On the 11th of March, Council voted to accept an offer from Queensland Treasury with conditions in relation to taking on the acquisition and construction of a new sewage treatment plant at Port Hinchinbrook. Treasury has now responded to those conditions and is seeking further commitment from Council. The Council officers have been working with various stakeholders towards a long-term solution and looking to ensure that a suitable sewage treatment capacity of up to 1,500 equivalent persons is the size of the treatment plant. Treasury is seeking Council to take steps to enter into a funding agreement now while the money is still available. Treasury's offered $6.3 million grant, which Council can apply to the new SDP at Port Hinchinbrook and or a wider benefit area. The original design was for a 500 equivalent person sewage treatment plant. However, the capacity of that could be consumed quite quickly, and if that happens, we will have a significant capital outlay in the short term. With a small additional investment to the $6.6 million for the construction of the 500 EP plant, an additional $2.2 million could have much of the future expansion for a 1,500 EP plant already undertaken. Treasury has indicated support for some of the conditions outlined in the March resolution. However, it has indicated that it is unable to meet conditions for around the additional funding that we've requested. Also, the Council had indicated in that resolution around the additional funding needed for the sewage reticulation network, which was an additional $2.3 million. If Council was to take these costs on internally, it would see us charging ratepayers in that Port Hinchinbrook estate $3,000 a year in sewage utility charges, with an additional $1,500 in special charge to cover the cost of that initial capital outlay. The option of not proceeding with the Treasury's proposal remains to be considered. The key issues around the risk and the obligation of Council to undertake that sewage treatment project currently sits with the conform deed, and the conform deed outlines that the company, the Passage Holdings in liquidation, is currently responsible for providing sewage to that estate. So the resolution today is just for Council to note the state's position and the funding conditions in relation to Port Hinchinbrook, provide feedback to the Queensland Treasury that in the absence of additional funding from external parties, the construction of the new sewage treatment plant at Port Hinchinbrook would place Council and the community in a compromised position, and also request the state maintain the availability of the funds for Council to allow time for sufficient funding to be secured elsewhere.
Thank you, Mr. Bradford. Any questions for the officer? Mr. CEO.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bradford, the yield modelling provides for the $3,000 levy. The $1,500 levy would only last for a period of 10 years, if I recall correctly.
That's correct, yes.
Thank you.
That's good, Chair.
Any questions or further clarification? Councillor Barnes.
Good, thank you, through the chair. Mr Bradford, should this be left maybe for the next meeting, because we've had a federal budget only put on us this very week? Have you got any updates on future government funding that you're aware of now since this report's come out?
So through the chair, there is currently discussions happening at a federal level at this stage, where council hasn't been made aware of the progress of those at this stage. They're still progressing though. The reason for this needing to come to council today was the state is currently preparing their budget as well, and is looking for commitment from council to continue forward with this project.
Thanks, Mr Bradford. I think the dot point 3 covers your concern, Councillor Barnes. We're asking the state to maintain the availability of the funding while talks go on at federal government level.
Thank you.
Any further, Councillor Farinelli?
Just through the chair, with regards to, in the background of the report, it says $6.3 million grant to a new sewage treatment plant. I'm pretty sure I can remember that one of the conditions we put forward was that we weren't really wanting to take on the roads. So is that 6.3 now, has that been acknowledged by Treasury, and so therefore we're not looking to take on those roads? And so, because it says in here $6.3 million grant to a new sewage treatment plant. So have we been able to achieve that commitment from them, that they're not requiring us to take on the responsibility of those roads?
Through the chair, it was a little unclear in the letter about those sort of details down to the conditions at that level. So that would be subject to further negotiations with the state. However, council has made it clear in their resolution that we were not willing to take on the roads. So that would be our position going forward.
Thank you, Mr Bradford. Any further comments, questions? Councillor Millwood.
Through the chair, so Mr Bradford, has there been any indication from the residents at Port Hinchinbrook that they would be happy to take on the costs involved with this project?
Through the chair, the survey that we undertook last, I think it was September, October last year, we haven't done an update, any further engagement with the residents down there, but in that survey there was clear indications from the residents they weren't comfortable with $3,000 a year in general rate, sewage utility charges on top of their current rates.
Yep. Thank you, Mr Bradford. Any further questions, comments? If not, would somebody move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Baines, seconded by Councillor Barnes. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We move on to item 6.2, page 247, Port Hinchinbrook Sewerage Ongoing Operations. Mr Bradford.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through Chair, today the second report in relation to Port Hinchinbrook relates to the ongoing operations that Council has been undertaking at Port Hinchinbrook since August 2017. This service is currently unfunded, and officers are requesting Council consider whether this ongoing operation should continue. So currently the infrastructure at Port Hinchinbrook remains in the ownership of the Passage Holdings. However, in 2018, following reported major failures to the plant reticulation network down there, Council took immediate action to avoid immediate risk to the environment, the community and public health. So during 2018, 2019 and 2020, an agreement with the Department of State Development, Tourism and Innovation, with consent from the liquidator, saw Council take on the operation of the sewage treatment down for the Port Hinchinbrook estate. The funding was provided by the state at the time. However, in 2019-20, Council exceeded that funding by $38,800. The condition of the treatment facility is in very poor condition, and additional funds were needed to ensure that service can continue to happen at that facility. During 2021, so this financial year, all all expenditure to the vote, which is up to $95,700 to the end of April, has been unfunded and been funded by the general ratepayer of the Cassowary Coast. So the service that council's providing, while $95,000 is a lot less than what council would be forecasting if we were operating a newer treatment plant, the level of service we're providing is very basic, a bare minimum, and is really not sustainable with that facility. So it should be noted that the state nor council has a direct responsibility for the ongoing operation of this treatment facility. So in the absence of funding and also appropriate tenure for council to operate these facilities, council should consider ceasing its involvement. By ceasing our involvement at 30 June 2021, this provides a short period for any external bodies such as the company and or property owners to come to a suitable arrangement on how that sewage service will continue to be provided at Port Hinchinbrook. This option would see the wider Cassowary Coast community ceasing direct involvement with funding the ongoing funding of that service, and also resolve the ongoing budget issues with of it not being funded. So the long-term solution, council, I think, is to still look for a long-term solution for Port Hinchinbrook. A new facility is required, and council is committed to finding that solution. So risks of making this decision today would be a potential lack of ongoing appropriate management of sewage, and then the risks associated to the wider environment, such as the Great Barrier Reef, if it's not being continued to be maintained and managed. Also, there may be some political risk around the inaction of a failed private estate on the doorstep of the Cassowary Coast. So the resolution today, or the recommendation today, is that council, in the absence of funding, cease ongoing maintenance and operation of the sewage treatment at Port Hinchinbrook Estate from 30 June 2021.
Thank you, Mr Bradford. Councillors, any comments? Councillor Farinelli?
Yes, through the chair. We've been looking at this for quite some time now, and I think I'm probably not the only councillor that gets countless emails with concerns about the future of the estate. I think we need to look at it for what it really is. There are other people within this region who have sewerage services provided to them by this council, and as such they are charged for those services. My understanding is we don't receive any income whatsoever from the residents at Port Hinchinbrook for the service that has been provided of sewerage, and therefore the rest of the region is subsidising sewerage services. I calculate, and I don't have a calculator, so I've done this the old-fashioned way, of so far $134,554. Could be wrong, but as I said, I just want to refer and draw council's attention to one of the emails I've received. Was basically suggested that figures provided previously by Mr Bradford show that in the 2.5 years that council has been running Port Hinchinbrook sewage system, it has cost council budget of only $115,000, which that is more now, because that was back in February I received that. Property, it was suggested in the email, property owners at Port Hinchinbrook are invoiced in the vicinity of $600,000 per year for general rates. So during that period, the ratepayers have paid approximately $1.5 million in general rates to the council, and the author of the email was at the time asking the Mayor what was the rest of the $1.5 million used for. I think it's very important to point out, and I think this is something that is people have sort of failed to understand in the past. General rates do not cover sewage. General rate, and that is plain and simple. General rates do not cover sewage. That is a separate charge, as is water. The people of Port Hinchinbrook, in my opinion, receive exactly the same services for their general rates as what everybody else in the Cassowary Coast receives. It's important to understand that as an amalgamated council, we don't have the just one town centre that we have to maintain. We in fact have 4 major town centres, with Innisfail being the largest. So as part of the amalgamated council in those 4 town centres, we provide as council through the collection of general rates services such as libraries. We have 4 of those. Public pools, we have 4 of those in all town centres, including Cardwell. We have council operations across 2 offices. We have stinger nets, we have parks, we have esplanades in Cardwell, Mission Beach and Innisfail. We have airports at Dalkey, Tully and Innisfail. We have animal management, other regulatory services such as parking, food safety, public health, environmental protection. We have information centres in Cardwell, Tully, Mission Beach and Innisfail. We have depots in Cardwell, Tully, Alarish and Innisfail. We offer disaster management. We have marine and boating facilities. We have cemeteries across the region. We have town centres in Innisfail, Tully, Mission Beach and Cardwell. We have pathways. We have sports fields. We have open spaces. We have event management that we try to bring events to this region for the benefit of our community. We also, as council, manage daycare, community housing, community care and support and housing services. We have thousands of kilometres of roads. We have 91 concrete bridges, 47 timber bridges, 31 composite bridges. We also provide waste services. So when people ask me what are we getting for our general rates, I think that's a pretty good description of what you're getting for your general rates. I think this council provides ample services for the collection of general rates, and I will again very clearly say your general rates do not cover sewerage, and therefore this is addressing an issue that we have where everybody else is paying for the service of sewerage, everybody in this region, other than the people at Port Hinchinbrook currently. And I believe that the recommendation is appropriate in this case, because I don't believe it is fair for the whole region, the region that is receiving these services, and the people who I might say who do not receive services of sewerage and therefore have to provide their own avenues for through septic and whatnot to manage their own sewerage waste. I do not believe it is fair for those people to be subsidising others.
Thank you, Councillor Farinelli. Any further comments, councillors? Councillor Millwood?
Through the chair, I think that was very well said, Councillor Farinelli. And I also would like to know that are we going to seek compensation for the funds that we have extended that haven't been covered by the previous agreement?
Through the chair, the conditions that were adopted on the 11th of March for the acceptance of the state's proposal with the conditions, one of those conditions did look for that to be refunded, be funded, and at this stage we haven't had any confirmation that it's going to occur.
Thank you, Mr Bradford. Councillor Barnes.
Good, thank you, Mr Mayor. Well, firstly, I don't think I can vote for this recommendation purely on a morally and a health issue, because I'm damn sure the governments aren't going to let us take this whole project on ourselves, mainly because of the conform deed, of which there is a 3-government tier of all involved in that. So I know some people call that conform deed a negative, but I call it a positive, and I think it might come to the top in a situation like this. I just think it's about one meeting too premature, this decision, because as Mr Bradford said earlier, he is currently dealing with governments through their current budgets, and there is a chance of us gaining more federal funding or state funding. So we might be having this decision, and it's not the 30th of June yet. Maybe it is one meeting too early. I'm just asking fellow councillors to maybe leave it on the table one more meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. I don't think it's one meeting too early. In fact, the state funding ran out last year. So you're probably talking about 8 months late. We are 8 months late, not 1 week too early. Anybody else? Councillor Farinelli? Move the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Farinelli, seconded by Councillor Morwood. All in favour? It's Councillor Farinelli, Councillor Baines, Millwood, Chewy, Pervin, Nolan and Councillor Barnes opposed. Thank you. Thank you, Mr Bradford.
Thank you, Councillor.
We move on to general business, item 7. Any general business items, councillors? Councillor Chewy, first hand up.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor, I would just, excuse me, if I may table, I have a petition to table. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chewy. Through you, Mr. Chairman, this is a petition in respect of the design and course construction of a pathway or an obstacle course on the foreshore of North Mission Beach. Proposed site being located near the amenities block and Stinger Net. So I'd recommend, through you, Mr. Chairman, that it be referred to the Chief Executive Officer and form subject of a future report.
Do we need a resolution effective?
Yes, please, Mr.
Yeah,
Mayor.
moved by Councillor Toohey, seconded by Councillor Baines. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Any further general business? Councillor Toohey.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to thank everybody who wore purple. As we know, May is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, so it's great to see. Just following up on that, a couple of items, if I may. We recently completed the Handbag Project 2021, which was in support of victims of domestic violence. The community once again embraced this project. We had handbags, I think we filled about 160 handbags with personal items. These handbags were delivered to centres and shelters in Tully, Innisfail, Cairns and Townsville. So the response from community was fantastic. I would like to very much thank again our wonderful service clubs, Mission Beach Lions, Mission Beach Rotary, Mission Beach Lioness, Innisfail Lioness, Tully Lions, Tully Lioness and Tully Rotary for their cash donations, which I was able to purchase new items to fill the handbags. So our service clubs, I just do a fantastic work for all of us. So I just would like to shout out and say thank you to them. Thank you to everybody who helped pack the handbags and who delivered the handbags, and to the shops who were able to be the drop-off points for people to bring the handbags and items in, and to our local radio station who once again were very supportive of this project. So on behalf of myself and council, thank you to the community for once again embracing this, and we look forward again to doing that in 2 years' time. And following on from that, in continuance with the Domestic Violence Awareness Month, the Tully Support Centre would like everybody to be part of their online Girls' Night In on the 20th of May. So if you go to their Facebook page, you can register, and you could even win some prizes once you register. And all they ask is when you register that if you've got sitting at home with your feet up watching the telly, take a photo of yourself on your Girls' Night In and send it to their Facebook page, and it can just show the support that is getting. They had people from from Brisbane last year become part of that. It used to be a thing. Obviously COVID has impacted on that, but the online project was one that was really embraced by a very wide community, so they've decided to keep it going. And if you'd like any more information on that event, if you contact Maxine on 40681004, that's 40681004, she will be able to provide you with any more information. So thank you to everybody who's been supportive of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Toohey. Councillor Millwood.
Through the chair, I'd just like to say a big congratulations to the team at council and for the footpath renewal in Innisfail. I've had plenty of great comments on how good it looks and can't wait for it to all be finished, so it all looks great. Further on from where Trudy is, tomorrow, May 14, is Do It for Dolly Day, which is an initiative that takes a stand against bullying. The message is to be kind and wear blue. And Do It for Dolly Day is about teaching the awareness and prevention of bullying. It's started quite some time ago about a young girl that had a very misfortunate incident. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Millwood. Councillor Barnes.
Good, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good news for council this week. I know we've brought it to many a council meeting about the Upper Darragee Road. Council were notified this year through the lengthy process of trying to get land acquisition. We've been given an extension now with government grant money to be extended, and the whole job be extended to the 30th September, which is great news. That was a big concern for council, and currently we've got Ergon and of course the sugar mill doing their railway line crossing, and Ergon's doing underground power, so that's good news. Also, I've received very good news back from the mayor's visit to the Cowboys big meeting and their last Friday. Mayor, have you got something to report on that? Because it was all positive and it's all about trying to bring a NRL game to our great stadium.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Barnes. I did receive an official invitation to attend the official opening of the Hutchinson Builders building at Cowboys headquarters. State-of-the-art equipment. It's a gym. It's an indoor soccer facility and all the other amenities that come with state-of-the-art NRL infrastructure. But the main reason I accepted the invitation was to personally deliver a invitation to Cowboys CEO to think about planning for a pre-season trial game at Tully to showcase our beautiful grandstand, or even another NRL fixture. And that has happened. That was handed over to Jeff, and they'll take it into their planning processes, and we wait to see if we get a good response from them. But the NRL already take a lot of pre-season trial games to country, Queensland, so we're in with a shot in that regard, but we'll wait and see what they decide at their board level.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. And while we're on the grandstand and the showgrounds, it's nice to see our staff trying to get together to try and save the field a lot with the upcoming show, and it's a multi-purpose arena, of course, and we've got the show jumping. So I know they're currently active on trying to keep that field in as good as it can be. The Mayor, Councillor Baines and myself attended the Battle of the Coral Sea, which was a great success. It was a great day. Jeff might talk about it later. It was great to see the federal government bring out recently about North Queenslanders from Tropica Capricorn North about our house insurances, and that's going to affect, I meant to talk to Dan Horton about that actually, but just to bring everyone up to speed, they're going to underwrite a lot of our house insurances and try and bring them in line with the rest of Australia, which should be totally beneficial to this shire. Last meeting, I probably should have brought it up on business for the minutes. I mentioned the great increase in shark activity on the Barrier Reef and of course crocodiles in all the estuaries. Since then I've had a phone call from the State Department and also LGAQ and another body that were very interested. They must have saw it on live streaming, and there is a little bit of activity now, just starting that people are aware, and it's because of a few reasons. One is we've taken away the 3 shark licences from Townsville in between and also Cairns. We've seen a big increase. Also, what I learned from the government body was they're a great concern now. They're thinking about the Asian fishermen over in their countries are starting to really rape the oceans, and those sharks are getting hungry and moving back into the Barrier Reef. Well, it's not causing a very good balance on the fish life, because anyone who goes to the reef now, unlike 3 years ago, you could always bring fish home. Now you bring very little fish, and anyone catching a fish is only pulling the head up. So it's only a matter of time, and I hope governments are aware. We're not doing the right thing by our environment, leaving these predators there. That's not a council opinion. That's only a personal opinion. I'd like to make that point. And lastly, Clump Point is a great success, but we're currently working with some of the owners of boats there. We do have a lot more work being done, and Mr. McBride is been dealing with the user group there. And there is a couple more pontoons needed there and a few more, little bit more infrastructure. But I'd just like to let those users know that Mr. McBride's onto it, and the councillors have now been made aware of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. Any further general business? Councillor Pervin.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Mr. Goodman, you might be able to give us a bit of an update on the wayfinding strategy. I've just got a few questions. Within the contract for the wayfinding strategy, is there a clause or penalties for taking so long? Could we please have some progress photos provided to us? And if not, can we get a reason why this is taking so long? And what are our options?
Would I still say through the chair?
Councillor Barnes is chairing. And
yep, through the chair. Councillor Pervin, the The current contract, I'm operating a little from memory here, but the current contract does not have liquidated damages for late delivery of the project. The superintendent for the contract has written to the contractor within the last month with a request for some specific plan from them for the delivery of the project, and at this time we have not. I should clarify that as of yesterday, when I checked, we had not had a response. We had a discussion on this internally yesterday, and we will be putting together a presentation to provide to council so you can get a very clear understanding of where we sit with this contract and the risks that are present.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Goodwin, but it's still, I'm up to some, yeah, it's just dragging on. It's just really dragging on. I don't know why. I wouldn't think it's such a big job. They've had plenty of time. I've been in council for 13 months, and this has been going longer before that.
Through the chair, it is. I can't give you the answers because we are not being provided those answers from the contractor as of yet. So I'm sorry, but that's all I can provide to you right now.
Yeah, well, if something's not going to happen soon, have we paid them any money at this point in time?
We have not paid they have been paid some funds as per the contract for the early works. We have not paid the next stage for any significant payment is delivery of the actual work to the Cassowary coast, and so we have not because it's not here. We haven't paid for it.
All right, well, we'll wait for your report and to present to council, and I think between us councils at that point in time, we'll have a good talk on where we think our next step should go. But yeah, I'm not too impressed. Very embarrassing. Constituents are asking me. I'm giving them answers. Yes, it'll happen soon. It'll happen soon. Like I said, 13 months I've been in council, and this happened long before that.
Councillor Millwood.
Through the chair, while you're there, Mr. Goodman, have we made a substantial payment, or is it quite minimal, the payment that we've already made?
Through the chair, the amount of that we've paid is proportionate for the design work and that early work that was done, so it's not significant in terms of the overall project.
Any further general business? Councillor Pervin.
Yes, could I ask the CEO to take on report? Could we please have council staff have a look into some wheelchair accessibility at Calendar Park? I've had a few people ask me about that. There's no accessibility up to the canteen. It's very difficult for them to get up. If we could have this put on a report and a bit of a talk to Brothers Rugby League Football Club, how we could look to the future to help them out.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman, we'll do that.
Thank you, Councillor Pervin. That's been noted. Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, a great segue from Councillor Barnes, of course, about the Battle of the Coral Sea. It was a fantastic event. It was well supported. We had people there from Brisbane, Goldie, around the local area, a lot of response from Townsville, members down from Cairns. The HMAS Cairns crew did a fantastic job on the day. Probably just a timely reminder so everyone can get it into their calendars. Next year is the 80th anniversary of the Battle of the Coral Sea. So there's already some future planning going into place. So I would suggest, and I don't lock this in, but I think it's the first Sunday in May. Generally, the day itself was actually the 8th, but the committee generally sets it up on the first Sunday in May. So block it out in your calendars now, and it'd be fantastic to have a bigger event next year on this very significant anniversary. One other piece of general business, Mr. Mayor, I know May is about supporting domestic violence, a very important piece. but the month of May with the Queensland Government is also support your local small business month. And this Saturday, the 15th of May, is signified as the Love Your Small Business Day. I'll be sharing some of the information around from the Department of Small Business Industry and Training, but there's some part of this support package that I'll send out. We'll put it up on the council Facebook and put it on our website. So there's 8 easy things you can do this Saturday, and probably something you should think about, not just this Saturday, but all the time. So number 1, buy from independent businesses. You don't have to go to the big chains all the time. Buy gift cards and vouchers from your local small businesses and give them as gifts to your friends and family. Don't cancel something if you've got it on. Try and reschedule it and look at doing it at a later date. I mean, none of us can control emergent things that happen in our calendars, but don't just cancel. Buy the fresh produce from farm gate or growers markets. Reach out to your favourite business. Help them out with some of their web design stuff, or get on the likes, get on the Google mapping and say you've been there. Give them a good rating. Encourage your friends and everyone you know to buy from small businesses and support our local businesses. Pay the goodwill forward. So again, share your good experiences with the local businesses, and again, give your favourite small business a plug on social media, or as many small businesses as you can. So I'd like to just encourage everyone to think about it on Saturday, but then make it a business as usual piece going into the future. And that's enough out of me, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Baines. Councillor Millwood.
Through the chair, further to that, Jeff, on small businesses, now you got the ball rolling. There's a new little small business down at Curramine Beach. There's a new butcher down there.
There is.
Next to, what is it called?
Chitter
Chatter. So maybe you want to go and have a look at that while you're there.
Good point. Any further general business? Mr. CEO.
Yeah, through Mr. Chairman, and I seek Council's indulgence. It's not generally good practice to raise items in general business off agenda which involve council expenditure. However, in this case, we have a registration close for 21st of May. We've only just received an invitation, so I seek council's permission to proceed with a recommendation which will involve some expenditure. Mr. Mayor, you received an invitation from AMDA Foundation Limited to be a guest at the Land Forces International Land Defence Exposition being held in Brisbane Tuesday 1st of June to Thursday 3rd of June. You were unable to attend, but have suggested that Councillor Baines might attend on your behalf. Councillor Baines has approval from Land Forces to attend on your behalf, and an official invitation will be received very shortly in that regard. The event is seen as an opening to attempt to leverage greater Defence Force presence and expenditure in this region, and is in keeping with Council's corporate plan and our principles relating to economic activation. I think it's important to note that this is considered to be quite a powerful forum for key decision makers to network with defence material manufacturers, equipment suppliers and service providers. The invitation includes registration also for the CivDef conference, which allows networking with senior key players from the defence industry proper and government generally. So the cost anticipated is some $480 for flights and $900 for additional expenses, so $1,380 approximately, and it's my recommendation that Councillor Baines be given approval to attend the Land Forces Exposition on behalf of the Mayor, and that the costs involved be paid from Council's budget for conferences and deputations, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr CEO. A formal resolution is required?
Yes, please.
I'll move the recommendation, seconded by Councillor Farinelli. Any further comment, councillors? All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Any further general business? I also acknowledge the campaign against domestic violence. Talk to any police officer and they'll tell you their highest call-out rate is around DV, which is very sad for our community, but it's a fact of life. We're all stakeholders in it, and I noticed the effort today amongst councillors and staff to support this campaign against domestic violence. I acknowledge it. We've just finished 1 year in office, and I thought it was appropriate to do a 2020 year in review, or should I clarify it and say a 2020 pandemic year in review. None of us in this room have been through it before, and I'll proceed. With an unprecedented year facing an emerging pandemic but remaining steadfast, we have now marked a year of substantial progress in our first year together as elected council. The past year has brought us unexpected and unprecedented challenges. For example, staff working from home. That's been really difficult for the managers, but it's something we had to do for the protection of our own staff and the wider community. But it has brought us together and allowed us to challenge ourselves to create and prepare our region for a brighter, more sustainable future. As I look back on the year, I'm amazed by all we have accomplished, and I am looking forward to all we will do together in 2021 and beyond. My gratitude to you is endless. Though this year was marked with many successes, it wasn't without loss or hardship, due mainly to COVID-19 pandemic. The work done since the beginning of last year by our frontline workers, residents and businesses has been paramount to helping the region face the pandemic and the constantly changing environment. Other highlights. The introduction of live streaming has proven very popular with our ratepayers. In 2020, Council formed a Cassowary Coast Community Consultative Group. The group was established to provide the community with the opportunity to have input into Council's projects and decisions such as asset rationalisation process. At Council's special budget meeting in July 2020, Council unanimously resolved to endorse a target of $400,000 in savings through asset rationalisation, and the consultative group has been an important part of the decision-making process. Asset rationalisation will allow Council to provide an improved and more efficient level of service for ratepayers of the Cassowary Coast region. Council recognises that every voice in our region is important, and I have personally enjoyed listening to the diverse opinions from the community on a number of topics. The Cassowary Coast is a very giving region, and I am constantly humbled by the commitment of individuals and not-for-profit organisations who are genuinely committed to finding solutions for the members of our community. The community came together to support the community Christmas appeal and broke the previous record with donations reaching over 10,500. Together, we do make a difference. With wide open spaces, crisp, clean air, the heart of the wet tropics, the Great Barrier Reef on our doorstep, as well as easy access to many parks and wildlife on the Cassowary Coast, we have ample opportunity to enjoy a wonderful standard of living. I am proud of the role Council played this year in contributing to the livability through the provision of clean, safe drinking water, efficient waste disposal and well-planned, maintained infrastructure. Our well-resourced libraries, jam-packed school holiday programs and events such as Morning Melodies promote inclusion, accessibility and enhance community connections. The introduction of the sporting bursaries last year has been widely endorsed by our community. Thank you to our dedicated council staff for your hard work in delivering these essential services to residents throughout our region. We are focused on educating the community to meet our target date of 2025 goal of 65% of waste diverted from landfill and a 10% reduction in waste produced in households. Council has increased its recycling up to 23 products. Importantly, number 23 was mattresses, which take up a percentage of our landfill across our region. Moving forward, we'll continue to focus on building a more sustainable future. Our biggest strategic decision has been voting to take over management of our transfer stations on August 1. Another highlight, the $7.1 million Tully Grandstand officially opened in late 2020 in the region is now well poised to become a destination of choice for sporting events and concerts following the open of the region's most significant new infrastructure. In late 2020, Council celebrated a key milestone with the completion of the $3.2 million Bulgan Creek water reservoir. The water reservoir has helped our region avoid boil water alerts, which is a cause for celebration for many in the region. Thank you to the state and federal government counterparts who partnered with us to deliver these projects. My job would be very difficult without the continued support of my fellow councillors and a capable and dedicated executive management team. Thanks for your passion, commitment and expertise. Council owns $1.7 billion in assets, but our most valuable asset is our wonderful staff. Our future is looking bright, but our present is worth appreciating. I truly believe the past year is one in which we can look back and feel proud. As a community, we'll continue moving forward together to restore and improve the health and prosperity of our region in 2021 and beyond. Okay. Are there any further general business items? If not, I'll now close the meeting to the public, and we'll have a short recess before we go into the confidential items, which are item 8.1, page 251, auction of intention to sell land for rate arrears, and item 8.2, page 256, disposal of assets, surplus land. Okay, we'll have a 10-minute comfort break. You move, Councillor Baines, seconded by Councillor Farrelly. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, councillors and staff, would somebody move that we reopen the meeting to public? Moved by Councillor Millwood, seconded by Councillor Barnes. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And over to Ms Vick to present item 8.1.
The recommendation for auction for intention to sell land for rate arrears. The land described as per Schedule 1 attached be sold by auction for overdue rates at 10 a.m. Saturday, the 19th of June, 2021 at the Innisfail Shire Hall foyer, 70 Rankin Street, Innisfail, and the Chief Executive Officer be authorised to set the reserve price on the land as per the Local Government Regulation 2012.
Councillors, any questions for Mr Vick? Councillor Pervin? No question? Any question at Councillor Baines? So you're moving it, eh? You've moved it and you've seconded it. Okay, moved by Councillor Pervin, seconded by Councillor Baines. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Ms Vick.
Thank you.
We move on to item 8.2, disposal of assets, surplus land, and Mr Bradford will present this report. Mr Bradford?
Morning again.
Pardon? Yeah, Ms Sands has got that in the minutes. Yeah.
Morning, councillors. Again, through the chair, the report today is in regards to the disposal process for surplus council land. The recommendation is that council proceed to offer the land at Campbell and Gooley Streets for sale just via local real estate agents. 2 is proceed to offer the land at 15 Quarry Road, Stodders Hill, to sale by auction, and proceed to dispose of land using section 236(1) IV of the Local Government Regulation for lot 1, 152,304, lot 2, RP 734,992, lot 1, RP 700,492, for the disposal process. Also for the Chief Executive Officer to be authorised to set reserve prices and accept offers in accordance with the Local Government Regulation.
Thank you, Mr Bradford. Any questions for the officer? If not, moved by Councillor Chewy, seconded by Councillor Millwood. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And that brings us to the close of our meeting at 10:55. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.